Grown-ups Tomahawk, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to I Like to Movie. My name is Dan Scully.
My name is Garrett Smith, and we have 1000% not done that before.
We've not done that one?
It is wild to me that you came up with that just now, and we're like, have I come up with this insane thing once before?
It seems so obvious. It's like the Dorito taco at Taco Bell, where you're like, really? 40 years? This seems like the first day. But no one thought of it, so, you know.
You nailed it. I love it.
Has Taco Bell been around for 40 years or longer or less? I just threw that number out there completely apropos of nothing.
As far as I know, they've been around my entire lifetime, which would be at least like 34 years. Let's look it up. Yeah. Hold on.
I mean, my whole life, too, and I'm pushing 37. How long has Taco Bell been out? And they're still just using the same three ingredients and just folding them in different ways and mixing different fake Spanish words and calling it a meal.
According to this, they were founded on March 21st, 1962.
Holy shit. So that puts them at almost 60 years.
Yeah. Now
they just had their 59th birthday.
Sorry,
56.
I mean, it was founded in Downey, California, it says, and I'm assuming, like most fast food chains, I mean, I don't know, I'm not looking into this too much. I'm like, it probably wasn't a chain at first. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it was just I do know this little factoid about them. When Taco Bell opened its first location in Mexico, it was billed as American food. And accurately so. You know, yep. I mean, that's 100% accurate.
I'm just reading about this guy named Glenn Bell who opened a fucking hot dog stand, and I guess eventually had something to do with Taco Bell.
I mean, I
guess
feel
it's
like
named after him.
The bun situation of a hot dog through time can kind of, you know, it's different than sandwich bread. Like the bun situation, I could see that morphing into a shell situation.
Wait, hold on. This is right on the Wikipedia. Allow me to read this to you, if
I
may.
Please. I'm always open to learning more about Taco Bell. As I have more of my orange drink.
This is the opening paragraph of history on Taco Bell's Wikipedia, right?
Historia.
Because this is like kind of funny to me. Taco Bell was founded by Glenn Bell, an entrepreneur who first opened a hot dog stand called Bell's Drive-In in San Bernardino, California in 1948. Bell watched long lines of customers at a Mexican restaurant called Mitzla Cafe, located across the street, which became famous among residents for its hard-shelled tacos. This is where it gets funny. Bell attempted to reverse engineer the recipe, and eventually the owners allowed him to see how the tacos were made. He took what he learned and opened a new stand in 1951. The name underwent several changes from Taco Tia through El Taco before settling on Taco Bell, which he opened in 1962. So he literally had a hot dog stand and saw a Mexican family making more money across the street and, like, fucking Plankton style, tried to reverse engineer their taco recipe.
It's the American dream, baby.
Yeah.
Steal it, make it yours, call it your own, and shut them down.
So funny.
And then become a corporation. There it is. It's the American fucking dream.
That is so funny to me.
When I took a trip to LA a couple years back, I think anytime that there was just a corner stand with a Hispanic family selling tacos or semitas or churros, like any of that stuff, we always pulled over the car and stopped. Because each of them was just the best thing I had ever eaten up until that point, until I got to the next one. It like some seriously incredible street food.
There was one. Mexican is always the best.
It's the best. And this is this is Southern California. So we're right near the Mexican border. There's probably a more Hispanic culture than a white culture. And so you're getting some real ass shit. Like when you buy churros out of somebody's cooler that they're just selling on the beach, like there's none better. They're not those Kmart churros, but like there was this one stand that is kind of world famous despite nobody speaks English. You just kind of trust that they're going to give you the right price. You throw them cash and do that thing. It was on Food Network as like the best street food. And friend of the show, Kevin Lau, he was like, this is the one we got to go to. And so he took me there, and you could tell that it was good because the booth itself, as you ate, there was just stray cats everywhere begging for food. And, you don't have to feed him or anything, but I was like, this
Yeah.
feels so legit. And oh my God, I must have spent $20 and I ate $300 worth of the juiciest, most delicious food ever. Oh my God.
That sounds
It was
amazing.
so good, dude. So good. I think about it like a couple times a week still. And this was like 3-4 years ago. So good shit.
Sounds
Good
great.
shit. Buen mierda. Good
Uh,
shit.
Dude, like, what have you been watching this week? Because I have seen a couple pretty interesting, fun things that I'm kind of interested to share with you, but I'm curious if you
Um,
have anything on your mind.
well, I'm going to be guesting on a podcast on Monday that you were on before, and I actually forget what it's called. It is called, I'm looking at the message. You did it for Black Christmas.
Oh, my friend John's podcast.
Yes,
It's called Let's Take a Stab at It, I believe.
that's it. So we are doing Behind the Mask,
Oh, the
Rise
Leslie
of Leslie
Vernon?
Vernon,
Yeah.
which I hadn't seen in ages. And
I've
so I
never seen that
revisited that
movie.
the other day. Oh, I recommend it. It's really a lot of fun. It's very smart, very low budge, but like good performances. It's very clever in the way that it deconstructs slashers. Um,
That's fun. John's a
Sending in
very
my
nice guy.
email.
You'll have fun recording with the two of them. I had a great time doing a Black Christmas episode with them.
Nice. There's actually a kind of tie to Black Christmas that I picked up this time
Whoa,
around in
that's
that
cool.
movie that I didn't pick up on before. But there's
That's
a lot
cool.
of like sly references. But what's cool about it is in the world of Behind the Mask, Freddy Krueger is a real guy. He's a
Oh,
serial killer that people go, oh yeah, he haunts our dreams, but it's like, there's no mystical element to it. He's just a real guy, but the
okay.
mythology came. Michael
Okay.
Myers was a real guy who
Whoa,
terrorized
okay.
Haddonfield. Jason was a real guy, and so Leslie Vernon is a guy who is setting up his own legacy
Yeah.
as like the next big slasher, and he's got like a mentor who's a previous slasher, and therein lies the reference. It's like loosely suggested that he's Billy from Last Christmas as an old man, or
Whoa.
Black Christmas, not Last Christmas. That's a different movie entirely. Um, and so
That's
he's
very
got a
cool.
documentary crew following him as they
Right.
go through the motions, and it cuts back and forth between documentary style and then like an actual cinematic style of what he's hoping to create like in real time. And so that's a little jarring at first because it establishes his found footage and then divorces itself from it, but not in a way that feels like a cheat. It just it just melds the two forms together. But I don't want to say too much because I want to get it out on that podcast. But I really had a lot of fun watching that.
That's cool.
It was really, really cool. But I'll throw this out there: the movie that won Best International Film at the Oscars this year, Another Round, the Thomas Vinterberg
Oh, yeah.
movie. He did The Hunt, not the new Hunt, the old Hunt. He
Yeah,
works
yeah.
with Mads Mikkelsen a lot. He created the Dogma 95 movement with Lars von Trier. And Another Round, you should watch it. It's on Hulu right now.
I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Highly recommend. It is it's like a tragic comedy and very well deserved win for the best international film. And he actually, in Vinterberg's acceptance speech, told a really horrifying story about how right before they went into production, his daughter died in a car accident from
I've
someone
heard about
texting.
this, yeah.
So don't text and drive. But it was a really lovely speech, and it was actually kind of a lovely Oscar ceremony because without all the glitz and glamour, it didn't seem like everyone's head was up their ass. It was like it just seemed more genuine about things. But yeah, the movie is these four teachers are all kind of at different stages of apathy towards their life. And there's a philosopher, I forget his name, but his philosophy is that the human at a base state is operating 0.05% ABV lower than they should be.
Mm-hmm.
So they do an experiment as a group, which is let's bring some fire back into our lives and let's try and maintain a light buzz to see if that enriches our lives. And naturally, triumphs and failures and alcoholisms ensue, but it's really funny. It's got some great drama, and the characters are just all so real and fun, and like I don't know, like without putting a label on it, I sort of ran that experiment from the ages of 22 to 28, and it's just it's kind of just a really good true to life character thing that's just about a lot of things, and it kind of handles them all really maturely, but without forgetting to stop and have fun with it. It's just top to bottom great movie. And if you didn't love Mads Mikkelsen already, which I know is not a concern, you couldn't love him more after this, because he does so much with just like a look that breaks your heart or fills you with joy like that. It's really remarkable. And so I watched that. I could not recommend it enough. It's just a joy.
Looking forward to seeing that. I feel like that's one of those movies that has kind of like that's like a snowball going downhill. You know what I mean? It's like that its reputation continues to just kind of like grow and get bigger, and the more people watch it, the more I keep hearing good things about it.
I think you'll enjoy it. You'll be moved by it, and like it's not like it is an awards movie, but it's not like Oscar baity. Like terrible things happen in it, but not in a punishing way. It's very human, very real. And the end is just like such a great, awesome ending. It ends on a freeze frame that is like Maron. It's so good, or however you say Maron in Danish. But yeah, it's good stuff.
Speaking of freeze frames, if you don't mind,
yeah,
our listeners don't mind. I described this in a text message earlier this week to you guys, but I thought our listeners would appreciate how just fucking funny this is. There is a movie from 1988 called Witchery in the United States, or at least that's the title that it's mostly known as. Linda Blair is in this movie, as well as David Hasselhoff.
Nice, the Hoff.
It was an Italian-made movie. It's got some good stuff in it. Like there's some Fulci-like nightmare sequences in it that are like pretty good.
Oh, BT Dubs, a bunch of Fulci just dropped on Tubi this weekend.
Nice.
Free streamer, so.
Yeah. I mean, Fulci stuff is everywhere on the internet. I feel like you can pretty much watch his movies anywhere you're looking for movies.
Oh yeah.
But it's like Witchery's not very good. It is known as La Casa 4 in Italy, which is to say House 4. It's one of the House knockoffs. It's not very good. I don't necessarily have any reason to recommend watching it. However, it has an ending that I feel like I've seen mocked in a bunch of things throughout my life. And I don't know if those things are mocking this specific movie, but it's the only time I've ever seen this done sincerely. I've only ever seen this done as a joke before. And in this movie, it's totally sincere. There are two women that star in this movie. And I unfortunately, actually, now that I'm saying this, I only know one of their names. Here, I'll get the other one. Catherine Hickland is the one woman. So Linda Blair plays a woman who's
familiar. She from something? Well, you keep going. I'll look it up.
Robo War, Ghost Town. She's not in much. She's in like 7 movies. So Linda Blair is pregnant throughout the movie. I believe. Now wait, is it maybe Annie Ross? No. Yeah, it's Catherine Hickland, I think. God, I don't even know. It's actually. Oh, it's Leslie Cumming. That's who it is. So Leslie Cumming's character is expressly a virgin in this movie, and she's like the main character of the movie. Hasselhoff is like her boyfriend, who really wants to.
It says that Hickland was in Knight Rider, so her and Hasselhoff have a reunion there.
There you go. But he like really wants to have sex with her. She has no interest in that. There's like no reason these people should be a couple, because she like does not want to have sex with him. That's all Hoff? He wants. Yeah.
She's out of damn mind.
Well, she's like a virgin, and that's like very important to her. And the whole movie, she maintains that, right? And then
her last name's Cummings.
A bunch of spooky stuff happens. There's like a thing with a witch. There's this great actress, this older actress named Hildegard Neff. Hildegard Neff.
Not a lot of Hildies around nowadays.
She plays the lady in black. She's like a witch. She's like possessing people throughout the movie to like do all kinds of crazy stuff. There's like there's a lot of just like weird hocus pocus type stuff.
Yeah.
Over the course of the movie, everybody dies, including pregnant Linda Blair. Right? Like everybody fucking dies. And
they hassled the Hoff, he's gone?
Right. Everybody's gone. Leslie Cummings' character is the only one to survive. And in the final moments of the movie, she wakes up on a hospital bed. A doctor says, "Don't worry, you and your baby are fine." And then she looks directly into the camera. The camera pans in on her face and she goes, "My baby?" And then it freeze frames and cuts to credits. I have never seen that sincerely done in a movie before. Tori and I both just like burst out laughing and couldn't stop for like 5 minutes. I've never seen that actually played.
Yeah, I can't put a finger on it, but I feel like that's the ending of so many parodies.
Yeah, right?
Like it is just, that is the ending where it's like, what?
Yeah.
And yeah. Oh, that's
Literally,
so
the
funny.
camera zooms in on her. She looks directly into it. She goes, "My baby," and it just freeze frames. It's so
I don't
wild.
want to watch this movie, but I'm going to YouTube that ending.
Oh, it really fucking made me laugh so hard.
What's it
It
called
is
again?
wild. It's called Witchery.
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 It's so funny that there was like House knockoffs because like, have you seen House?
I know, and I don't even think it's actually
Not
a house.
Houseu, but House.
Right.
It's
Right.
not great.
Well, and I don't even think they're house knockoffs. It's one of those things where they just named a bunch of movies like they were house sequels.
Yeah,
You
like
know what
Zombie.
I mean? Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So weird.
That's so wild.
But
Although
I did watch
Zombie, at least they had the courtesy of having a zombie fight an actual shark.
Yeah.
That's beautiful stuff.
I need to see that movie. I've
It's
heard,
quite
I've heard,
literally a person in zombie makeup underwater with like a harmless shark, and they're just like, ah, it's fucking great.
I've heard tales of this, and I would like to see.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's also like, it's not like it's a great movie. It's just
Does
a
it also have an
classic
eyeball
piece
thing?
of fun.
Does it have
Yeah,
an eyeball?
it's got a
right?
great eyeball thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not like it's a great movie, but it's one of those fascinating artifacts of another time and place, which I imagine Witchery is.
Yeah. I mean, it was like
Witchery?
Witchery.
Witchery. Okay, I'm so hopped up on antihistamines, I can't process.
No, but it's a nonsense title.
Yeah,
It's fully a nonsense title.
it's like if they made a movie called Fuckery. Like, what fuckery is this?
I know. And
What witchery is this?
I know. It literally is like, hey, what's this movie about? It's some witchery.
It's a witchery.
Yeah.
And there might be a house. I don't know.
Yeah.
You tell me.
Not a very good movie, but there are some good sequences in it that I guess I could recommend it for. There are some good like nightmare sequences in it that are pretty cool.
Nice.
Dude, I did watch a legitimately really good movie this afternoon. Actually, have you ever seen? It's a Roger Corman movie. It's called X, the Man with the X-Ray Eyes.
No, I am familiar, but I have not seen that.
Okay, so this is on Prime right now. If anybody's curious, you can watch it. It's like. It's not even 80 minutes long. It's like just under 80 minutes long. It stars this guy who I recognized from a Hitchcock movie, Ray Milland. Does that name mean anything to you, Dan?
I don't think so.
He's in Dial M for Murder.
Okay.
He's in. By the way, he's in tons of stuff. That's just like the big thing that I know him
His face actually looks very familiar.
from.
I love how every picture of him on IMDb is him mugging harder than I've ever seen a person mug.
Yeah. I mean, some of his other big ones are Sullivan's Travels, The Uninvited, Ministry.
There's a movie here called Cave In!
Yes.
There's an exclamation point.
He's in Frogs. Oh, Escape to Witch Mountain, which I definitely saw as a kid.
That's what I know him from. I love Frogs. Yeah. Frogs,
so,
another movie that's not great, but is just so lovable.
He's definitely in lots of stuff. He's great in this movie. And okay, Dan, I think you would love this movie. It's X, the Man with the X-Ray Eyes. It's a mad science movie. It's your favorite kind of mad science. It is just a guy that figured out how to do a crazy fucking thing, so he has to. There is no other reason he's doing this. Literally, okay, so it's about a guy.
That's mad science. That's Doc Brown. I know this is bad, but I have to pursue it to its end, be it successful or destructive. I can't let it go unfinished.
Yes. It's about a guy, he's a doctor. He develops a eye drop that helps increase the spectrum that you can see.
Oh, like science.
Because we can only see 10% of the spectrum, you see.
It's like limitless for your eyes.
So what aren't we seeing? We can't see. He literally says at some point that we can't see, and he wants to see. So he develops this thing that allows you to see more of the spectrum. And it, of course, has a sort of increasing effect. The more he takes it, the more of the spectrum he can see, right?
Yeah.
And so he starts first. There's a great scene where he's at a party and he can just suddenly see underneath everyone's clothes, I
love it.
And so he's just looking around he's really delighted. But eventually he can see inside of your body to see if there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
And, that helps him be a better doctor. But eventually he can start to see even beyond that. And that starts to drive him kind of mad,
Yeah.
Literally
it's the classic, it's like last week's episode.
Yeah.
The eye that allows you to see a little bit more.
Yes.
It's like the movie, The Eye.
Yes.
Which allows you to see a little more.
Dude, it's so good though, because first of all, the colors are great. It's not Technicolor. It's like some other, but it's like a Technicolor type color thing.
Yeah.
It's really, really vibrant, which is great because the way there's like a really good in-camera effect where all they're really doing is using like, I mean, I don't know what specifically they're doing, but like, remember when you would just get like one of those little, like, I don't even know how to describe it, like a little crystal thing that would just refract light through it and it would make everything kind of rainbowy?
Yeah.
It's that effect on things when he looks at them.
Okay, so just like a prismatic effect.
Yeah, prismatic. That's the way to say it. And it's like, so it's already this very colorful movie that every time they go into like his X-ray vision, which they go into very often, it gets like really psychedelic and they do these really prismatic effects on things while also doing like overlaying images. So like sometimes they'll overlay like a skeleton while he's looking at somebody. So you get this like prismatic effect of a skeleton and a body. It's really crazy. But
1963. Dude, okay, yeah. Okay.
Really fun, like in-camera effects and stuff, and really just like a great performance. It's like a really good, like central performance from Milan. But there's a scene where a woman literally says to him, there's like this woman that like he works with, and she goes, "Well, why are you doing this?" And he starts to explain the science of it, and she goes, "Yeah, no, but why are you doing this? Like, what purpose does this serve?" And he
because I can.
He straight up, he goes, "Oh, I don't know. There's like a million implications." He goes like, "I literally never thought about that before you asked me just now. I don't know, like 100 things. Who cares? I can do it. That's why I'm doing it."
It's like for more, to see more.
Yes, yeah.
Why do you want to see less? That's the real question.
But it builds to like some really good poetic moments of like, him getting like really fucking like esoteric about what he can see once he really gets like deep into this, and so it just, I don't know, it honestly, it would make a great pairing with The Invisible Man because it's kind of the inverse of The Invisible Man, but the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I actually, in my mind, it's like I have a new dream movie I would like to make, which is The Invisible Man versus X, because it makes sense to me that X would be able to see the Invisible Man because of his power.
Oh, that's a good idea.
And so you just have
it's like kind of the thing, like being invisible allows you to see more.
Right.
So you do have access to things, but having X-ray eyes allows you to see more.
Yes. And I like the idea of like two madmen that face off against each other in their madness,
That's cool.
Yeah.
That sounds really
I really
cool.
liked this movie. It's on Prime. I highly recommend checking it out. It's really fun.
I might watch it tonight because I have like a little bit of time to kill. Jenna's doing like a candle thing. And when she gets back, we're going to be finishing the Hulu series about Sasquatch.
Okay, I heard
the
about
docu-series. There's only 3 episodes. The first episode is great.
Okay, cool.
But we watched it late last night. It was like, sleepy time. And so when she comes back, we're going to bang out the last 2. But I have a little bit of time to kill.
Because I know
I might put on X-ray eyes.
Yeah. Oh, dude, highly recommend. I know you're like heavy into cryptids these days, so I imagine this must be like
the thing about it is it's like I'm gonna. Well, we're on video, so I'll just air quote it.
Yeah.
I believe in Bigfoot. Not that I actually believe in Bigfoot. There probably isn't a Bigfoot, but I just say I believe because I love that people go hunting for it.
Yeah.
That's fun for me. I guess to quote the X-Files, I want to believe. Mostly not because I want there to be some beast that's hiding from us, but because the Pacific Northwest, a la Twin Peaks and other such delights, is scary in a way that nothing else is. And Bigfoot is at the epicenter of that. And so I enjoy, but I enjoy cryptid narratives. I grew up in Jersey. We had the Jersey Devil. I've become a Mothman fan just because I love the idea that he doesn't even hurt anybody. He just hovers when disaster is looming as a warning.
Right.
But so this Sasquatch thing, at least as it's presented so far, is this investigative journalist who's like gone undercover with neo-Nazis. He's gone undercover with he's this guy who's done everything. Yeah. But long time ago, in 1993, he was working on a pot farm in Northern California. And so this is back when, pot farms weren't legal. Yeah. And so it's deep in the woods where no one's going to find it. And one day when he was there, a dude came storming back into the cabin that they were in and said, there's dead bodies everywhere. People ripped to shreds. It was a fucking Sasquatch that did it. And he's all squirreled out. And it's great because they tell it through these really well done animations. And so, there's a lot of things to think about there. A bunch of stoners in the woods doing a highly illegal thing. It stands to reason that there might be some murders going on and that the details might be a little bit squirrely when you look at them. And so this guy now, present day, since his days as a pot farmer, is now an investigative journalist. And he's diving down a tube, starting with, I know sort of a story of 3 dead dudes that, it couldn't really be reported, that people think is associated with Sasquatch. So he's just making connections based on that to find out what really happened and why. And it seems to be less a story about Sasquatch and more a story about stories we tell ourselves when we can't handle the intensity of reality.
Okay, yeah, right.
So it's based around conspiracies and honestly cryptids. Mothman is based around the collapse of a bridge where a lot of people died.
Okay.
And the idea being we should have listened to Mothman because he was warning us of this.
He could have saved us or something.
Could have saved, like if we had heeded his warning, and like it's a whole fucked up, crazy story. But the idea just being like it's a coping mechanism, and that typically to me seems to be what most cryptids are. It's either a hoax photograph gets turned into something, and it just becomes a fun, self-perpetuating like culture thing, which is like Nessie and things like that. But then there's also, how do we deal with the idea that there's this big scary woods out there and we hear weird noises and people go missing and things happen that we can't explain, and you better believe I am not going to throw myself into that dark forest to try and explain. And therefore Sasquatch. And so it's kind of tying that into a true crime story. So it's like all of my interests wrapped in one, but it's really well done, and it's only 3 45-minute episodes. And in a world where every true crime documentary is a 90-minute story expanded to 10-hour-long episodes of filler, it's
feels
quite.
perfect.
And the Duplass brothers produced it, so it has like sort of a sense of humor, and it just has a sense of whole about it so far that made it very watchable. And like, of course, the characters are colorful and fun. One guy is so fucking stoned all the time, or at least so burnt out that he's subtitled, despite the fact that he's speaking English. It's a cool portrait of just like, this was an area of the world that didn't get coverage because a bunch of hippies went off into the woods so as to not have cameras pointed at them, so as to be off the grid, so as to live off the land. And so now they're all in their 60s. And they have stories. And so it's fascinating for 100 reasons besides Sasquatch. And Sasquatch just gets you in the door. So it's really a lot of fun. So I can't wait to watch that. But I think in the intervening time, because I'm working on editing a script and my brain is just fried. So I think I'm just going to push that till tomorrow. Maybe I'll watch X.
It's a real easy watch. This is one of those movies that's like, I liked it a lot, but you could maybe, the wrong audience might go like, it's a little sleepy, but in like, it's good though, like you'll like it.
79 minutes. It could be as sleepy as whatever. And if I fall asleep, whatever.
Well, I don't think it's actually sleepy. I just think it's like, it's got that pace of a movie that's 50 years old,
Yeah. Like the science back then used to do all the heavy lifting because we didn't know science, as a culture. I want to throw out a correction and an apology.
Oh, okay.
So a couple weeks back, I talked about Death Promise, which I did rewatch.
Yeah.
And I referred to it as a white boy Bruce Lee knockoff.
Yes.
He's Latino. Charles Dorset is Latino, and I even got his name confused. I was referring to him as Speedy Leacock. Speedy Leacock is his partner in the movie, who's actually insanely mysterious. I can't find anything about him.
I saw you posting about him this week.
Yeah. And so shout out to Vander K. He had one small connection, and we discovered that Speedy Leacock likely passed away in the 90s, and that's the only information I can find. But Charles Dorset is the guy who is the main guy, and that I called the white boy Bruce Lee knockoff, and he's actually he's referred to as the Latino Bruce Lee.
Okay.
And but I watched Death Promise again, and it's just like the best. I fucking love that movie so much.
I want
to issue an apology because I finished the book, The Lost City of Z, which is a stone cold masterpiece, and I watched the movie, which is a James Gray movie.
Yeah.
And I love James Gray. He did Two Lovers, The Yards, Astro Dad. He did all that fun stuff. Great actors, director, great visual director. His adaptation of The Lost City of Z is absolutely incredible. It has one of the most high art endings. The way that they depict the mystery of the lead character, Percy Fawcett, having disappeared in the Amazon with no trace, no one knows what happened. the way that they depicted that artistically without having a concrete answer is very well done. And I'd like to issue an apology to Charlie Hunnam, who is absolutely incredible in this movie. Knocks it out of the park.
That's what I've heard. I've heard that
great.
many times from multiple people. Yeah.
Pattinson's in it. What's Spider-Man kid?
Tom Holland?
Tom Holland, he's in it. Sienna Miller's in it. It's a really dense, beautiful movie that it just goes down like a glass of gin because it's delicious and awesome, but it burns the throat. Oh man, I can't recommend Lost City of Z enough.
I have heard nothing but good things. I liked Astro Dad at Astra a lot. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. And I also rewatched Pacific Rim recently and found myself enjoying Charlie Hunnam's performance in that more than I had recalled enjoying it. I actually recall really not liking it. And this time around feeling like this is still going to sound insulting, and I really don't mean it to, but it feels like he is trying to be a character that a 10-year-old could imprint themselves on, you know?
When I rewatched Pacific Rim in anticipation of the sequel a few years back, and I like Pacific Rim well enough. I have issues with just the staging of it.
Yeah.
But it's a movie that's very wantonly cheesy. We are canceling the apocalypse.
Yeah.
And when I revisited it, I was like, oh, I think he actually gets that.
Yeah, me too.
He's doing a Power Rangers-y thing here for us on purpose. And I think the way he plays kind of like adult in that is actually him getting the material better than I did at my first time around. I'm
with you. My rewatch, I was like, I think there's more going on here with him than just he's a cardboard man that is not very good at this, which is
that can make you fall in love with him during a bow staff fight.
Yeah. I enjoyed him a lot more in that. So I'm looking forward to that and feeling hopefully maybe hey, I like this guy now, you know?
Dude, I think you should watch it. And honestly, if you have the time and the interest, it's one of the best books I've ever read.
Okay.
It's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And the guy who wrote it, I want to say David Gran, I want to say is his name. I have it over here because it's in my... Yes, David Gran. He wrote that book, The Killers of the Flower Moon, which is Scorsese's current in development project. And he's written a bunch of stuff that has been adapted here and there. He's just kind of a true crime / history's mysteries kind of dude. Mysteries. Well, that's what this is. This is a guy who went into the Amazon to find the lost city of Zed. Because they're all European. The lost city of Zed. And then on his final voyage just disappeared entirely, no trace. But man, it's a crazy book. They make reference to the fact that they ran into cyanide spitting millipedes.
What?
That's a nightmare phrase.
Yeah,
a complete nightmare phrase. I didn't know that existed, and I have ruminated upon that concept many times since reading. It was they ran into this creature, cyanide spitting millipedes. Bruh? Excuse me? You mean
That's
they can
insane.
be worse than they are?
Yeah.
How do you make cyanide worse than it is? Put it in a millipede. How do you make a millipede worse than it is? Fill that fucker with cyanide. Oh my God, the nightmares. But they don't appear in the movie, thank God. But it's good stuff. And then I also finished reading The Count of Monte Cristo. I watched the Jim Caviezel starring adaptation directed by Kevin Reynolds. Well, here's the funny thing about it was years ago, a friend of the show, Isaac, you know, he was like, dude, you got to watch this movie. You got to watch it. You got to watch it. I said, well, I've always wanted to read it, so I'll watch it after I read it. So now, 20 years later, I finished the audiobook, and it's a great book, and movie rocks. It is good.
Yeah,
it's
I
very
remember liking that movie a lot. I mean, I saw it
really
when I was
a lot of fun.
In middle school, but
extremely different from the source texts.
Okay.
Hits all the thematic notes, but I mean that book is so much, and it's got to get boiled down to a little. Yeah. And so they took all the thematic notes and the basic plot ideas and turned it into a more basic revenge thriller.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. It's a really well-made movie. It's on locations. This movie will be done with green screens now. Yeah, and it also features an extremely young, what's his name? Henry Cavill, who's 18, really? 19, and funny. Sweet baby Henry Cavill is hilarious to look at, since he's my beloved Superman, or he's cocking the fists bathroom fight. And him as just like a foppish little like, I want a real dad is so fucking wild to see. But yeah, and so this little experiment of reading books and then watching the movies has been fun. And these two were fantastic entries in this.
That's cool.
Fun little project.
Okay, so, and was Lost City of Z more of like a pretty direct adaptation of that book? Than
not really
like, in comparative to the other adaptation?
Well, the book is like, it's from the point of view of the author researching what happened to Percy Fawcett and then telling the story of Percy Fawcett, as well as taking his own trip into the Amazon to sort of like follow his tracks. So it's like the movie is just the story of Percy Fawcett getting a contract to go to the Amazon, deciding to go back once he has an obsession, and then the trials and tribulations of surviving, in the jungle. Yeah. So they're kind of different things. It's not about the author. It's just about Percy Fawcett as a main character, whereas the book's more of a historical piece of research, but told in a narrative format. But beat by beat, in terms of Fawcett's adventure, just in a vacuum, it's pretty close. It hews pretty close. Monte Cristo is it's just a much more direct adaptation because I don't want to spoil anything. The thing about the book of the Count of Monte Cristo is that it takes its time going through many, many different, like, this character is actually this person. Right. Or he sets up this so that a million dominoes fall and can lead to that. Yeah. It's a great book, but at the end of it, I will admit that I did go to the Wikipedia to clarify a few things. Yeah, yeah. And it turns out I understood them well enough, but also, like, the movie just boils it straight down to the main guy who got him locked up in jail and him being mortal enemies by the end. Right, and now they've got a fucking throwdown. Yeah. Whereas in the book, it's, there's three guys that he's got to take out, which, he does in the movie as well. But it's less of a pointed vengeance and more of he's got this grand plan, and then in enacting it, learns more about himself than about, he thought he was this angel of vengeance, but he learns more about himself, and it comes to a different ending. But all of the thematic points, namely not to take stock in what you should have, don't have, was taken from you or want, and instead living in the moment and valuing what you do have, came through very strong in both. Okay. But I will say that the delicious revenge that you get from a thing like Kill Bill is much stronger in the movie and is therefore more entertaining in that regard. Yeah, that's interesting. That's a smart way to adapt that story then too. You have to, because it is a revenge story, but it's, it was written as a serial. Right. And so it very much plays as a serial. To make that into a movie, even one that's 2 hours and change as it was, there's just not enough film in the world. If you wanted to do The Count of Monte Cristo exactly like the book, you would need like a 30-season HBO show. It's a lot of book, and it probably wouldn't be good. So they really did a really good job with it. That's and Kevin Reynolds directed it, and he not Kevin Reynolds of Kids in the Hall fame, right? But sorry, that's Kevin McDonald. Sorry. But yeah, this guy directed like Waterworld, Robin Hood, 187. There's a couple other ones that were notable. Yeah, wait. The Beast of War. I was just gonna say, I know I looked this name up very recently. Yeah, he did The Beast of War. Okay, which was fantastic. But he also wrote Red Dawn. Yeah. Okay. So it actually has that sort of workman-like appeal of Beast of War. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, I dug it so much. It was a great, I woke up on a Saturday morning and I was about to hop the train to visit my parents in Jersey. I was like, nah, I'm gonna get a coffee. I'm gonna drink into this. Just enjoy this, let this wash over me. Having just finished the book the night before. Great experience. Hell yeah. Yeah, man. Dude, I started watching the Lone Wolf and Cub series because you were saying that. Bought the Blu-ray sets. Have you ever seen any of these? I'm just familiar with the imagery. Yeah. So, and I haven't watched it yet. I'm going to at some point. It also has Shogun Assassin in the set, which is I've seen Shogun Assassin.
Okay, I was gonna ask. So that is basically an American edit of the first two movies condensed into one like 80-minute American dub. So if you've
Shogun Assassin,
if you've seen Shogun Assassin, what you've seen is basically the like highlights of the first two Lone Wolf and Cub movies.
Oh, no way. Okay.
That's what Shogun Assassin is. Yeah.
I bought Shogun Assassin on like a bootleg DVD at a horror convention in response to it being B's favorite movie in Kill Bill Volume 2.
Okay, yes.
Because she's like, Mommy, can we watch Shogun Assassin?
Yep. Well, and that's why that reference is like
a
thing, is that what she's actually asking to watch is Lone Wolf and Cub, which is what her mom and her are, kind of. You know, you can imagine that might be like
it even closes on that that quote, like, and the mom was reunited with her cub and all was right in the world.
Yeah, yep.
I think that's what it goes.
Yeah, so you've probably seen... I've not watched Shogun Assassin yet, so I'm not certain like what elements of those two movies are in that movie. But I've got a pretty good guess, and I imagine it's just the most violent 80 minutes of awesomeness that you could possibly put on.
I remember it being pretty violent. I don't remember much of it, but I could probably like hum you the music.
Uh-huh.
If you got me started. Like, I remember the music sticking out.
Yeah, the music's pretty good in them.
Yeah, I would like to watch that again.
Dude, so...
I had no idea that they were one and the same.
Yeah, it's like a weird like American, dub re-edit of the first two movies in this series. Or that's my understanding anyway. I've not watched it yet, so but that's what I understand about it. It's on this set somewhere, like on the special features or something. But so they're good. They're like they're very much like what Kill Bill is based on, especially the fountains of blood. Like the way violence works in the Kill Bill world is how violence works in the world of Lone Wolf and Cub, which is really fun, but it's also really crazy because it really is about a guy and his fucking infant. It's like a really little baby that is present for every goddamn scene. Every time he beheads somebody and their head pops off and a bunch of blood spraying everywhere, there's just like there's like a reaction shot of a little baby being like, bah! It's like, it's fucking wild. It really is like totally wild.
Is there an anime component to, or a version? Because when you first said Lone Wolf and Cub, the imagery I was referencing in my head is in anime.
It could be. No, these are live action. I could just
be thinking of, but yeah, I mean, Shogun Assassin's live action, so maybe I'm not at all. Well, I guess I am familiar with the imagery now, just after recompartmentalize it as Shogun Assassin.
There could be. I don't know. Maybe there. I mean, okay. So it's based on a manga, I think. So it's
maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah. So like maybe you have context that way. But and it feels very comic booky. Like the way shots are framed and just how things play out. Dude, there's a fucking scene in this where it's in the first movie. So like the whole thing is about this guy who was like the executioner. He's like the shogunate executioner. And
he's the Shogun Assassin.
Right, yes. And so like through a series of events, his wife gets murdered and he decides to become a like spirit of vengeance in response to that kind of. He calls it like walking the demon path or going the demon way or something like that.
Yeah.
And so there's a fucking scene where his wife has been murdered. He's decided to like disavow the shogunate, since they have done this to him basically. And he is sitting in front of his son. He has a sword in one hand and a ball in the other hand. His son is at most 1-year-old.
Yeah.
Has the craziest haircut. He literally has like a samurai haircut where like he's got bangs and a ponytail, but everything else is like shaved,
Yeah. I know. I know the kid. Yeah.
So he's sitting in front of him. He's holding a sword in one hand and a ball in the other hand, and he literally says like, and the kid's name is like, oh, what is it? It's like Doguru or something like that.
It's Grogu.
Wait, close enough. It's like Doguru or something. He's like Doguru. You could not possibly understand the choice I'm about to ask you to make. But, nonetheless, you must choose between a life with me of the demon way, where I will take vengeance for what was done to our family and your mother, or to join your mother. When he presents the ball, he literally says, to join your mother. He straight up tells him, I'm going to fucking murder you. Like, you are either going to join me in a life of utter violence and nothing but death, or I will kill you and send you to the afterlife with your mother. You must now choose, even though I know you could not understand what I ask you to choose. And of course, the baby reaches out and grabs the sword. And
Yes,
his response is literally, you should have chosen death with your mother.
That's incredible.
It's so fucking nuts. And then, dude, the second movie
That's the
is
darkest
like,
magic 8-ball
oh my
circumstance
God.
ever.
And like, it is your classic, like, stoic hero.
Yeah.
And like man of misery, like what John Wick is kind of the modern version of, you know?
Yeah. Well,
But
even
like,
the bride was very much just like,
yeah,
I know that what I'm doing is wrong, and I
yeah,
have to do it. And
right.
she says to Vernita Green's daughter, is
Yes,
like,
yeah,
if you feel weird about this in a couple years, like that's part of the deal for me, because
yes,
I'm
yeah.
prepared for that.
I'm now part of a cycle of this, and you
Yeah.
may,
I
dude.
could have walked away, but I can't walk away.
Yeah, and they're also like very artistic. Like there's a lot of just like really great filmmaking in these movies. The fight scenes, it's really interesting because I'm such a fan of these older Japanese movies, especially when they're samurai stories like this. Usually because they have this great fight choreography that is usually presented in like really wide shots and stuff. So you get like a lot of just like really good action stars basically doing like good action work. And these are much more like our modern action movies where like it's really like fast-paced editing and a lot of like tight close-up shots of like moments of action, but it's all like really well realized. Like it's all very clearly like thought out and pre-planned, and so every shot is like an action, a reaction, the consequence, an action, the reaction, the consequence. So even though it's like really, really fast-paced editing, the way that you and I are often kind of like, I don't like this doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's like it is done for art. It is not done to mask what they could not accomplish. You know what I mean?
Hyper editing is good if you use it to tell the story. If you use it to
Yes.
mask that you didn't do any pre-production work, then it's
Yep.
gobbledygook. Yeah.
Yep. So it's great. It's really, really fucking cool. And like the second movie has really fucking crazy cool action sequences in it. Like some really just like wild ideas. There's a fucking scene where like they get attacked by a ninja. And mostly the father is who fights, right? Like he does most of the fighting because the baby's literally a baby. But like at some point, the father gets overwhelmed, and a ninja like breaks through and makes his way to the baby cart, and the baby just hits the side of the cart, and the handle just produces a knife that stabs the ninja like in the chest. It's
Beautiful.
Like it's fucking awesome. It's so great.
Oh, I want to watch
really
this.
love them. They're really fun.
I vaguely remember Shogun Assassin because I was 19 when I got that.
Right, yeah.
That's wild. Oh
It's
man, that
so
sounds so
fun.
cool.
It's really
Nice.
and the thing I was going to say about him being so stoic is like he may actually be the most stoic, most miserable hero I've ever seen in a movie. And so it's like remarkable to me that it works at all, to be honest. You know what I mean? Like he's actually so stoic and so miserable. It's like this should be so depressing. And what makes it not depressing is how hyper violent it is, which should only make it more depressing in actuality. You know what I mean? It's like this really weird. I don't know how they pulled it off. It's really weird actually that it's as entertaining as it is. Yeah.
That this baby isn't tainted yet by the punishing experience of life, which brings some joy to it.
Yeah,
maybe. Of course, the obvious point of comparison that I was making with Grogu is the Mandalorian.
Yes, Mandalorian, of course.
He's very stoic. Now, granted, they sort of lift that towards the end of season 2 and kind of make him more human. But like the innocence of, I just like calling him Gregory. The innocence of Gregory makes for some levity in the middle there. I want to watch this, or at least at the very least revisit Shogun Assassin.
Yeah, I have really been enjoying them. I've seen the first 2 so far. I think there's like 6 of them total, 5 or 6.
Nice.
I'm really looking forward to watching the rest of the series because it's been very entertaining so far. Oh, dude, you would fucking this will blow your goddamn dick off when it happens. So
bring it.
In Big Trouble in Little China, there's those guys that ride lightning. They have those huge hats.
Yeah. And they make the silverware spin on their hands,
Yeah, I think they must be based on characters from this series.
Probably. Why wouldn't they be? Yeah.
There's these like 3 assassins that he has to face off with in the second movie that have huge hats. They each have like, one of them has like a metal claw, one of them has actual metal fists, one of them has like a mace, right? They each have but there's a scene where like they're all on a boat together. Lone Wolf and Cub and these three guys end up on a boat together, and they're and almost unrelated. They end up on this boat together, right? Like they actually all know they're supposed to face off with each other, but almost on accident they all end up on this boat together, and they're sailing on this boat, and this thing happens on the boat that leads Lone Wolf and Cub to kind of act on their behalf, and so they kind of begrudgingly say like, "Hey, we respect you. Like, we're probably going to have to face off in the future," which of course they do. But
the boat is the Continental.
Right. But in this moment, we will go our separate ways. But that conversation happens while the boat is literally on fire around them. And so what they say is, they go like, look, if you survive this, then you deserve to have survived it, and we can face off later. Otherwise, we grant you the sympathy of you get to try and survive this burning boat. Goodbye. The way they leave is they just do front flips off of the boat through the fire.
Of course.
You literally see all of that. You see physical actors do front flips through actual fire and actually light on fire while they do front flips through the fire. That's
all I need.
Awesome.
That's
incredible.
all I need. That's everything.
It's so
I want.
awesome.
Because I alongside like fully on fire stuntmen.
Yeah.
This isn't quite highly ranked, but like in revisiting the older Mortal Kombat movies to prepare for the new one of the things that I like is nobody can just go somewhere.
Right.
They have to flip there.
Yes.
It's because in karate movie logic,
Yeah.
it's more efficient
Yes.
to flip there. But in actual logic, it's infinitely less efficient to do a flip in any circumstance at all.
Yeah.
And so to flip through fire like, I'm out of here.
It's incredible. It's like
especially because doing a flip would probably kill me faster than being on fire would.
Yes.
I mean, I just don't have the skills.
Yeah.
I learned something interesting about, at the beginning of Kill Bill where it has the Klingon proverb, how revenge is a dish best served cold.
Yes.
I've been misinterpreting that phrase for a long time.
Okay.
How do you interpret that phrase?
Okay, so what I'm going to tell you is I think I only understood it myself recently. Now, what I'm about to say could be wrong. I don't know, but this is what I feel like I recently finally was like, oh, that's what that means. I believe what it means is a dish served cold is a dish that was at one point cooked and was hot and was recent, but you allowed it to get cold over time. And the reason revenge is the best served cold is like it's almost sweeter when it's so long past that the person you're taking vengeance on doesn't even remember why you're there to take vengeance or something.
That's a third option that I didn't even consider.
Okay.
I originally thought it was revenge is a dish best served cold, meaning remove emotion from it.
Oh.
My dish to you is not a hot dinner.
Okay.
If I bring emotion into things, it sullies my quest.
Yes.
It's essentially saying, like, if you're going to go into a vengeance mission, you have to be cold-blooded because the second you let any warmth in there, it's going to sink it. But then I recently learned that that's not accurate. Now, this could also not be accurate.
Yeah.
Is that revenge is a dish best served cold we all know that revenge universally is a pretty bad idea.
Yeah.
So if you let it get cold before you enact, you may decide not to go on a vengeance quest.
Whoa, very interesting.
And so the wisdom is,
yes,
a desire to have vengeance is usually made in the heat of the moment.
Yes.
But if you let that chill, you might realize that the better move is to end the cycle of violence and walk away.
Yeah.
But and that's what I learned might also be, but this third option you presented is also quite compelling.
Yeah,
because immediate vengeance is satisfying.
Yes.
But slow, torturous vengeance is delightful.
Yeah, I don't know. For some reason, I think just because of I was thinking about Kill Bill, I was thinking about Old Boy. I was having thoughts recently about how like a lot of vengeance stories are about like, someone wanting to take vengeance, but they have to get out of prison first. They have to,
it's Count of Monte Cristo.
Something prevents them from getting that vengeance in the heat of the moment. And so ultimately what they get to do is take vengeance much, much later after maybe much planning, whatever. The person that they're taking vengeance on maybe doesn't remember them as much. I don't know. Something about that seemed interesting and compelling to me.
All three of these are a compelling and literal translation of what it is. And I don't know which one's true, but I always thought that it was, like remove emotion because then you're efficient.
Yeah,
the second you start to feel, then you might go soft, and then
Yep.
what's the point?
Yep.
But the moral of every vengeance tale that I've ever seen is
Better not to have.
better not to have vengeance, live better, get out, because you're only perpetuating the cycle. I mean, that is like the John Wick thing, is that he's now back.
Yes.
And he got the one out that no one gets.
Yep.
And because he chose this, he's back. In Kill Bill, it is she deserves her vengeance, and whoever she wrongs along the way also deserves theirs.
Yes.
Yeah, and so like but in Monte Cristo, in Kill Bill, not so much in John Wick, but in a lot of these things, to speak to your thing, is very much like, if you go in there, right away, you could fuck up. But if you plan it out, you can have your vengeance.
It's the later, sweeter kind of, But I don't know. What's interesting about your interpretation of it that I like so much is it is presented, at least in the beginning of Kill Bill, as a quote unquote proverb. And I never put any weight into it being described that way. And I liked what you said about what is the wisdom of this phrase. Like you referred to it as the wisdom of this phrase. And a proverb usually would be presented as a way to sort of, it's a story being told to try and give you some wisdom. It's trying to impart some wisdom usually. So that actually, I really like that, thinking about it in those terms. That's very interesting.
I think that might be how it was intended.
That makes sense.
I mean, all of them are valid, but and like it's true. There's been so many times in my life where I was like, I'm gonna fucking get this person. They wronged me, and I will ruin them.
Right.
And then I don't, because I'm lazy. But then a couple years pass, and I go, thank God I'm lazy. That could have been a whole can of worms.
Yeah.
Like I don't even give a shit anymore. Like I actually like this person again. What's that?
It's funny.
So it's best served cold, if served at all.
I like that we got to this point in this conversation.
Right?
It's a very interesting turn.
Crazy.
Yeah. Thanks,
Reddit.
I know. I think I'm into wrapping up around now, if you are. Unless you got more you want to unload on me. Oh, you know what? I want one thing really quick. Have you seen Bad Trip?
Dude, Bad Trip is so fucking funny. Oh my God, that movie's insane.
Okay.
Insane.
I just watched it. I feel like I wish I liked it more, but the experiment of the movie is legitimately nuts and like really, really like fun to contemplate and think about, like the lengths they would have had to go to set some of this up, how many times they must have had to do some of these things with how many different marks in order to get one that actually like functions well within the movie. You know what I mean? Like it's fascinating.
I just think Eric Andre and Tiffany Haddish are two crazy funny people.
Yes, I agree.
They're just insanely funny. But Borat and Bruno broke the mold in that they were able to actually like plot base a movie with the pranks.
Yeah.
And so like this, it has its plot where he's got to find Maria.
Yeah.
But like for the most part, it's just a loose setup for pranks. As like a prank reel, those pranks are so good.
The pranks are crazy and they're really, really interesting. That's the thing that I feel like I tripped up a little bit with this movie, was like, I actually liked the idea. And I guess you're right that Borat actually did kind of already cover this territory, but it felt unique in this movie. I liked the idea that this was trying to be an actual movie in a classic sense.
Yeah.
With characters that are being performed by actors and a story that is kind of written, and it's a buddy story.
Yeah.
That they then...
And it's like a parody of a buddy road movie, too. And like Eric Andre very much wears that, we're going on a road movie.
Yeah.
I saw a girl.
Yes.
That's the funniest thing.
Every time he does the like just jaw drop when she walks into a room and everybody around him is like, what the fuck is happening? It like made me laugh so hard. But like, I really like that concept of, because essentially what the stunts then do is actually bring non-actors into the story of a movie.
Into a scene,
Yes, and I really like that idea, and I think it's like, this movie is like 75% of the way there to actually...
the stunts came first.
To like actually pulling that off in a way that's like a compelling movie. But I think that's the thing, is that ultimately, because it's only 75% of the way there, it's like, it's kind of not a great movie. It's like not a very good movie that has great stunts and really cool ideas.
It's a prank reel.
Like, yeah.
It's just that now that Borat exists, and like that first Borat movie really does that best.
Yeah.
His story of marrying Pamela Anderson by putting her in his bag.
Yes.
And saving the economy of Kazakhstan in the process. Like, it broke the mold. And like, if we look back at like, the Jackass movies don't have a plot. I mean,
No,
Bad
yeah,
Grandpa had a plot, but
Right.
that was very prank heavy. It's all
And
prank heavy.
and
And
also
so,
post Borat, I think too, right?
and I think some of them are. I think Bad Grandpa is certainly post
Right.
Borat, I
Yeah,
would
yeah.
guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, that's like a mold that's just shattered. I mean,
Yeah.
like, you're not going to beat the first
Yeah.
Borat. It's just not going to happen.
I just
Although I think Bruno comes close. But no, I agree. Like, what I go back to in that movie and what I kind of dismissed almost immediately when watching it, like, what I go back to is the pranks, and what I dismissed was any sort of plot.
Yeah.
It's just the pranks for me. But like, that's kind of what I expected. I went into it like, yeah, this is just a prank movie.
Right.
The rest is just the connective tissue for the sake of not saying that it's just a long episode of the Eric Andre show.
See, I was
But
so
it's
fascinated.
so funny.
I was so fascinated by some of the experiment that, like, in certain scenes, non-actors literally took on the role that a character would play in a movie, but like not because anyone told them to, because like we are citizens of a world, that grew up on movies.
Yeah.
And so like when we
when he does that musical number and the little old guy on the bench is just like, he's in love.
Yeah,
like that's exactly it.
It just,
and then he gets hit by a car.
Yeah, yes. I found that remarkable. Like, I really thought that was interesting. That was an actually like very interesting thing that this movie, maybe accidentally, kind of like opened up and
I mean,
and
that is Andre's brand. Like, if you ever watch his show, he's very good at getting people to go along with like absolute absurdity, like complete absurdity. It's just, is there full length there? No.
Yeah. But I did enjoy it, and it is like legitimately very funny sometimes.
Tiffany Haddish, fresh out of jail,
yeah,
and that poor guy who's like, just go, just fucking go. Like, I felt so bad for him because, I mean, it's like a black guy on the street. Like, the stakes are pretty high for him in that moment.
Yeah.
Aiding and abetting an escaped prisoner.
Yep.
Intensely high, especially at this present moment, more so than someone who doesn't look like him.
Yes.
And to be able to make that a funny scene, I think takes some tremendous talent, both in the writing room conceptually and for Tiffany Haddish. But that guy, like, because of that situation, really did fall into, that's a character trope.
Yeah,
of the guy's like, listen, I don't want to help, but like, go, run. You know, like, they could like, and so I think you're right. Like, it is fascinating how they drew people in.
Yeah.
But I don't look back on it and think of any of it as a cohesive whole. It's a scene by scene, prank by prank thing. And I Saw a Girl Today musical number is like where that movie peaks for me. It's so goddamn funny.
Yeah.
And to end with him just getting plowed over by a car is just beyond comedy.
Yeah, pretty good.
He's so funny. He's the weirdest dude. I wanted to talk to
you about that because I was pretty sure you had seen it, and I knew it was something you would appreciate.
I saw it. It was on Prime like a year ago, but it was one of those things where it like got released accidentally. And I thought it came out then, and I watched it. I was like, "Oh man, this movie's great!" And then it dropped off, and it didn't officially come out until this year.
Yeah.
And so I kind of had forgotten about it, and then I saw that it like got a more proper release.
Yeah.
But no, I would agree. I think you're right. Like, it is a fascinating experiment that almost gets there on the experiment level, but it more than gets there in terms of just gut laughs.
Some of the comedy is very, very good.
It's so good, and I love Lil Rel, and it's just everybody in it's funny.
And there were certain things that were like aggravating me. Like, honestly, like a lot of the Tiffany Haddish stuff, I spent the movie being like, I don't like this as much as the other stuff. This feels like a way, like, again, thinking about it as a movie and like a story, this all feels so B story. I don't need any of it. But when they did the thing where she shows up at a bar and gives everybody a flyer of these guys and explains the story, and then they show up later and like the night that they gave everybody there. Thinking about the
That's
people
like a show.
in that restaurant, the night that they got of these people coming in and out one after another, and like, it is so fun.
And they're all like townies too.
Yes. It's so funny to think about. I like couldn't believe that. I was like, this is so funny.
Yeah, that's like, and that to me is where the strength of the movie is like, it just made it entertained whatever scene they fell into. Like, those people all got, and all those townies got brought into it, and they're characters in and of themselves, but they're real. Yeah. And then I am a sucker for the dumb white chicks gag at the end.
Oh,
just
dude.
Because we forget that White Chicks is a movie that on its surface is like kind of horrifying.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
like, it's actually like a pretty funny movie for what it's worth.
Yeah,
But like just the makeup effects are just unsettling to an insane degree. And so to end there, especially because they were like teasing it, and it never occurred to me that they'd actually go there.
Me neither.
And to end there was like I was like a choke on your beverage moment for me.
I mean, genuinely the funniest line in the movie, I think it's Lil Rel, references that the makeup from White Chicks makes the Wayans look like Ninja Turtles. And that might be the funniest thing I've ever heard.
It's so true. It's so true. Yeah, because that's like the I have no problem swallowing any suspension of disbelief pill.
Yeah.
Never an issue. But the White Chicks one is pretty hard to swallow.
Well, and I mean, that's what makes the final prank so funny.
Exactly, yeah. Because it's like, you know, like, okay, I could see in Tootsie,
right,
someone like buying Dustin Hoffman as a soap opera star lady. I don't see, what's his name, Marlon Wayans. And especially because you meet the actual White Chicks earlier in the movie.
Yeah.
I don't buy them being bought in that world as them, let alone as even human beings at that point. But it is like, it's dumb. It's like a kind of funny movie. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's silly. I still would rather watch Little Man. I've never seen Little Man.
I've never seen Little Man either.
Do you know Little Man?
You have explained the premise to this movie to me before, and every time it feels like I'm taking mushrooms for the first time, because it's the craziest premise I've ever heard.
One last time before we end this episode, and then abolish Little Man talk until we devote an episode to it. It's Marlon Wayans digitally turned into a dwarf.
Yes.
So in the reality of the movie, he's a dwarf.
Yes.
But the dwarf goes undercover as a baby.
Yes. See, this is the thing that every time makes me feel like I'm on mushrooms, because I remember the trailers for that movie, and I have spent my entire life assuming that the premise of that movie is that Marlon Wayans, through the magic of CGI, plays a baby.
No.
Like, that's what I've assumed that the movie was about.
He plays a dwarf criminal who needs to go undercover as a baby. It's too much.
And what's insane is that is somehow insane to me, and that him just playing a baby is not. Like, him playing a baby, I'm like, yeah, I buy that. That's a movie premise. Him...
Like, that's funny. It's like, President Baby.
Premise. Him, through CGI, playing a dwarf that is pulling a con where he's playing a baby, that's insane.
It's too much.
That's crazy.
I'm going to watch that movie. We should devote an episode to that one day. One day we'll do it.
We will.
But I guess for now, let's just say to the listeners, we're going to announce next week's movie.
Yeah,
we're going to try and keep up with this. We're going to announce next week's proper episode movie on our YouTube. That way we don't have to always say, like, we're spoiling now. So for next week, we're going to be doing this Ken Russell movie called Crimes of Passion. Yep. It is available on Arrow Video. If you want to watch it and you don't have Arrow Video, maybe it's available somewhere.
Who knows?
I guess that's something we probably should have thought about.
Well, we don't always have to cover movies that are available other places, but I agree with you.
It is a $10 purchase on Apple TV.
Cool.
And so I imagine that you can rent it for even cheaper via Apple TV. But it's called Crimes of Passion. We don't really know anything about it except that it's a Ken Russell movie and it involves Anthony Perkins. Yep. On the strength of that alone and the fact that Arrow was having a sale, I bought that.
Yeah,
it was Grindhouse Video was having a sale.
And by the way, Kathleen Turner is also in this movie. Annie Potts is in this movie. Like, this is going to be fun. This is going to be very fun.
So I don't even know the plot, but we've decided to do it.
Yep.
And so that's what we're going to do. 1 week from now will be our episode on Crimes of Passion. Ken Russell, famous for Altered States and The Devils, which I caught up with recently, which is fucking mental. Oh my God.
Got to see it.
I got a need for Reed because Oliver Reed is
He's
off
insane.
The chain in that. It's nuts.
Genuinely an insane man.
There's actually an actress in that movie where I was like, why do I recognize her? And she's just like Elton John's grandmother in Rocket Man. I was like, that's why. And the only reason I know her is because there's a line that Jenna and I sing at one another that she delivers in Rocket Man that's kind of funny. Okay. But but I was like, why do I know this lady that Oliver Reed is fucking plowing? And then I was like, oh, she's the I've seen so much traffic lady from Rocket Man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, in
Masterpiece,
exciting,
by the way.
I would like to see that. I wanted to let our listeners know that you can finally find our podcast on Spotify. Finally got that to work. It's like actually working. It's actually there. You can search us. You can find us. So follow us on Spotify. Listen there. I feel like that will hopefully expand our listenership by a lot. Tell your friends. Follow us on Spotify. Find us over on the internet at I Like To Movie. That's the numeric 2. Facebook, Twitter. Get in contact with us. Email us at ilikeTomovie@gmail.com. And find us on moviejawn.com, JAWN, and part of their podcast network. Oh, and I'm over on the internet at Philadelphia. That's with an F. Follow me on Letterboxd.
Cool. Yes, I'm at Dan Scully on Letterboxd. All that stuff that you just said. I do another show called Hot Property. You should definitely check out the latest episode, also on Spotify, where we called into the Hot Pockets customer service hotline to interview them about different Hot Pockets cooking methods for an experiment that we did in microwaving, oven cooking, and air frying Hot Pockets. So, and shout out to Andy at Nestle Foods, who really helped us out and did so with a smile.
Sounds
great.
great.
Of fuckheads doing that. At Dan Scully on all the things. Check out moviejohn.com, of course, and findy.com. And I believe that does it for me.
Awesome. Well, my name is Garrett Smith, and I like to movie.
My name is Dan Scully, and I like to movie.
And we all know that you like to movie because we like to movie.
I did that like I was a Power Ranger calling a Power Zord.
Oh yeah. What does Kamen Rider do? He does. Oh man, I'm gonna do it wrong, and everyone's gonna get mad at me, even though nobody watched it. But he does like a all the way over like that. Yeah, it's really good.
All the bad guys just stand there while they're all like, calling upon Power Zord, Saber Tooth Tiger for this. Boom. So tune in next week. Crimes of Passion.
Woo!